Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rob Has a Podcast. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I am here today with a very special guest to talk about his experience on The Circle UK Season 3. It's Vithun. How you doing, Vithun?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to meet you. You seem like a lovely geezer. Heart emoji, send.
Thank
Did I
you.
do it right? Did I do it right?
Yeah, well, you should have said circle message first.
Oh. Yeah, okay. Circle message. All right, nah, it's already messed up.
Yeah.
I already screwed it up. How are you, Vithun?
Yeah, I'm good. It feels a lot longer than a week since the final episode. Like, it's weird that all the series has only stopped being on air for a week, because it feels a lot longer than that. And I think I probably underestimated the mentally draining side of it. I think, especially I didn't think I would care that much because it's been so long since we filmed it. And to be fair, like, I do feel like I was quite desensitized from my character when I'm watching it now. I do almost feel like it's just a doppelganger playing me. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't actually feel like it's me doing that. But I guess people's comments have made it draining, but not necessarily, but I don't feel like they're at fault for their comments. I think their comments are based on what they see as a viewer. So I can't really critique them for that. It's just draining because obviously I have the privilege of knowing the truth.
Yeah.
and so I was seeing those comments and it's just draining for me.
I can imagine. I mean, it's a tough thing, especially like in the past, The Circle has filmed live, and so people get out of the show and they can like watch it back, and I'm sure you can search for the comments that were made, but it's a different experience to sit and watch the reaction happening live and live in that for a good 3 weeks.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think I was speaking to a couple people from like previous series, and I don't think they watched their series back, and that would have been me had I been had it been live. And because for me, I guess the only reason why I watched it now was just for my episodes. It was just to make sure I didn't do anything that got me cancelled. And then afterwards, I only watched the remaining episodes just to like support my friends because I'm friends with the cast. So it's like just to support them. But other than that, there was no motive for me to watch the show. And I think having done the show, I definitely feel like I preferred the doing to the watching. And that was actually a big reason why I applied, because I noticed as I was getting older, maybe it was because when you watch a series of the same thing many times, you get diminishing returns. So it could just be that. But I noticed that as I'm getting older, I'm enjoying these shows like less and less. Because when I was younger, like in my kind of single digits, like kind of to like early double digits, I would watch literally every single one. So like, I mean, I'd watch all those talent shows as well, like Strictly, Britain's Got Talent, like you have like American Idol. So I watch like X Factor, all that stuff. So like I'd watch every single type of competition that's televised basically. And as I've got older, I've really stopped. I feel like the only things I never watched The Circle before applying. So like probably the only things I watch now, I'd say just Strictly Come Dancing and maybe like The Apprentice. When The Apprentice is on, I watch that. But yeah, generally I don't watch many of the competition shows anymore, because I think I realized that I prefer doing it to watching it. And having done it, I definitely feel like I prefer doing it. Maybe doing it has made me stop being able to watch it. And I do actually think that's true. I think that's quite common with people that do shows like reality shows. They say that once they've done a show, the way they watch it is in a whole different light. Like, I guess the way I just can describe it is like knowing like a magician's tricks, kind of. So like if you knew all the magician's tricks, you wouldn't want a magic act, wouldn't be exciting for you.
I hear that a lot.
I think that's how I'd describe it.
So do you think you would want to go and do more of these kinds of shows? Would you go on Strictly?
Oh yeah, I'd go on Strictly, but I mean, I'm nowhere near famous enough. But but I would do it. No, I think I even said with The Circle, like, I said to the execs actually that once the show runs its course, they should do like an ultimate circle, where like ex players can go back in, but you can either play yourself or you can catfish as another player. So obviously the characters will be redundant because we know they're fake now, but you can catfish as someone like a player. So it will give the people that were catfished the first time an opportunity if they wish to play as themselves this time, or it will give the people like me who played as myself the chance to catfish as another player.
Yeah, like you could go in as Tim from season 2.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think I was on an Instagram live with Shabazz and Billy, and we talk about who I'd be, and I said that I'd be Woody if I had to pick off the top of my head now. And my reasoning for that was that, given that hypothetically if this was going to happen in like 10 years time, as per se, like I would think like who would be of an age where it would still seem realistic that they want to do the show. So like given that Woody did it when he was 18, like in 10 years time he's going to be like 28, so it still seems like realistic that he'd want to do the show. And also given that he's like a semi-celebrity, I've never spoken to him. I've spoken to loads of the like season 2 podcasts, but I've never spoken to him. But given that he's quite like semi-famous, information on him will be quite publicly accessible. That I won't need to speak to him and get to know him to get information on him. So that was my reasoning for that.
Do you think you would do better as a catfish, or do you think that being yourself was the right call?
Well, the thing is, I actually applied as a catfish, and I applied as a catfish, and I literally only mentioned that I could be myself at the bottom as like a footnote, just as like. So I gave a whole paragraph on why I should be a catfish, and then I gave a small bit at the end going, "Oh, but if I want, I could be myself and overcome the obstacles I found in society." I put something like that. That was literally the bit I said about myself. They got the call, and then they asked me about my catfish idea, and then they were trying to like kind of sway me away from it. And then they said like they didn't like the one I'd come up with, so they were like, we'll call you tomorrow, the next day. And then I came up with another idea, and they still didn't like that one. And then the casting just came out and outrightly said like when they saw my application, they pictured me as like being like the stats mastermind. And that they think that I'd have more chance getting cast as that. So then to myself, I thought, do I want to get casted, or like am I just gonna is that question like, do you want to do what you want, or do you want to get casted? And ultimately, like, what's the point of doing what you want if you know they're not interested in it? So I was like, I'll go as then I pursued going as myself, and then I did get casted. And I think even when you watch the show, I think you can see that everyone's like almost a character of the real selves. Like you're cast as that kind of role. So I knew, like, even and from watching the US series and seeing like Shoe Bomb, I knew I was going to be put as like that kind of like nerd archetype equivalent. I mean, in fact, to be fair, like I had to show my parents a picture of Shoe Bomb for them to be willing for me to do the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they I think I spoke on the show about how my mom was against like Asian people doing this stuff. So then I showed her a picture of Shoe Bomb and was like, look, people like brown people do this show. Because like throughout my like application process, like even with the psychs and everything, the whole chat was about how like I was definitely under the impression that I would be the only like brown person, just from the nature of how the psych conversations were going, like because the questions they were asking me were like, how would you feel if you like as the one representative and people expecting you to represent them, or like what do you think the like repercussions could be if you won and stuff, all this sort of thing. So when I went in, that was a big shock to see them, because and almost I felt a bit awkward about it, only just because in my VT my VT made it seem like I was the only Asian. If you watch my VT in isolation, it would look like it. So the fact, even on even when the way they did the edit, I was the last Asian out of the starting lineup people to be shown. It looked a bit weird, I felt. So had I known that stuff, I would have given a kind of different USP angle to me. And I think the other reason was that my initial thought was that I'd play a lot into my culture in terms of like being that kind of tokenistic person. So that when I saw them, then I immediately had to change my strategy, because the thing is, I generally get accused of being like a coconut in real life. I don't know if you know what that means.
I do not.
Okay, it's someone that's like ethnically brown, but like supposedly like stereotypically like having the characteristics of a white person on the inside. So for me, I almost saw the circle as a chance to kind of not disprove that, because I kind of know that I'm not very cultured, but like at least try and grow into my culture a bit more. But then when I saw like Hashu and Manrika, I realized, or Saeed and Manrika, I was like, oh, I can't do that because they're going to catch me out, kind of thing, in case they say anything that's wrong. Whereas if it was just like, say if everyone was like if there were no other Asian contestants, it's unlikely they would have been able to catch me out when I try and become more Asian.
Yeah, we did see you talk with Manrika, being able to bond over the fact that you were both there. Was that something that lasted? Obviously, the relationship with Manrika did not last forever. So, how did that work out?
Do you mean like just my relationship with Marika on the show?
Yeah, because
Like,
it
yeah.
felt like that was the bonding moment for you when you both talked about expecting to be the only person there to represent your culture, and then seeing another person there and sort of feeling like, oh wow, like we're both here, like this is cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was good because we were, I guess she's only like 18 months older than me.
Hmm.
So like we were similar age as well. And I'm surprised that she, because she straight away like friend zoned, or not friend zoned, but like brothered me kind of
Hmm.
in the chat. Like she was the first one to call me like her little bro and stuff. So it's interesting because it showed that she didn't clearly have the kind of relationship thing in her mind, or at least, or maybe she was waiting for the right moment, because she could have pulled the trigger then if she wanted to have that kind of circle relationship with anyone, if she hypothetically. But yeah, that conversation was good. But that was actually the only conversation I had one to one with her throughout our whole time. So after that conversation, I think so that conversation happened on day 3, and I mean I have a table and graph of all my chats, so I memorized it. So that conversation was on day 3, and then day 6 was the first Circle Siblings chat.
Hmm.
And then after that, there was only 2 more Circle Siblings chats. So after that one conversation, I never had a one-to-one with her.
Yeah, so we basically saw every single
You saw
conversation.
every single chat with me and Manrika. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. So I mean that was a big part of your storyline, was that everyone kept saying like, we like Vithun, but he never talks to anyone. He never initiates any conversations. Um, uh, like what went into that situation for
I'm just gonna have a sip of
you?
water.
It certainly seemed like it definitely was a pain point in your game.
Yeah, so I think this has been this is like public knowledge now on a lot of podcasts.
Hmm.
But the reality is that we have absolutely zero control over the amount of chats we have and who we speak to. So really, I can only do the best with the hand I'm given.
Yeah.
And it's not as if we're all given the same amount of chats. It changes per contestant.
Hmm.
So different contestants, we each get a different amount of chats and a different type of chats. So some people might get like one-to-one chats, whereas other people are shoved into like a group chat with 4 other people. So it's all controlled by the show.
Yeah.
So I don't think I don't think anyone could have done anything differently to what I did with the chats I was given. Like because if even when the chats they did show, because surprisingly I actually calculated out of my one-to-one chats or chats in like a trio, 55% of them made the TV. So like people were saying that I came across like quiet, but in reality, like, or people were saying that they were editing me out of the show, but in reality, like more than half the chats I had were making the TV.
Hmm.
So for me, that showed like when I was given the chance to talk, I did deliver.
Yeah.
And actually, one of the positive things I think people were saying about me was that they thought I was quite efficient with my airtime. So I do feel like when I was given the chance to kind of have a conversation, it did make the TV. And like even after my conversation with like Natalia, when I was in the hot tub and stuff, when the camera panned to her after the conversation, she said that she thinks I might be her favorite person to speak to. And even Andy, like I think when on one of the ratings, he said he always enjoys speaking to me and stuff. So I think everyone I spoke to enjoyed speaking to me, but I'm not in control of how frequent those conversations are with. So I really did everything in my power that I think I could have done.
Do you have
Yeah.
any theories as to why it was so difficult to get chats?
Uh, there's 2 things. Well, the main reason is because if if you imagine having like a dozen eggs, yeah, they'd invested about 10 or 11 of those eggs into that Felix Manrica relationship storyline. So the problem was they'd invested so much into that story that they could not risk that story collapsing,
Hmm.
because the narrative for the whole series that they planned would have been broken, because everything obviously led up for them to meet at the final dinner. And I think everyone kind of knew that as soon as that relationship formed, I think all the viewers kind of knew that they were going to make the final as well.
Hmm.
Because every year there needs to be kind of a big kind of reveal at the final dinner. Otherwise, it's not eventful. So I didn't at this point. I didn't process that, and I think if I was going back, I think one of the things I would have done would be like to think about the TV aspect as well, because I really went on thinking it was a game that's televised as opposed to a TV show about a game.
Yeah.
Because ultimately it's an entertainment show and the game is merely a framework for the show to exist. But I think I went on thinking it was a proper actual game that's just so happened to be televised. And because I'd only watched series 2 prior to me going on the show, I'd had no time to like analyze production and stuff.
Yeah.
So because I'd only had one series to judge it by. So it's only by comparing series 2 and our series that there's so many demographic similarities between results and everything. But back to the point. So yeah, I think the one reason was that, and I think the reason why Tally, Gemma, and me went out in succession was because we were probably the 3 biggest critics of that relationship or Felix. And so any threat to that relationship had to be like written off with like immediate effect. So I think that was one issue. I think the second issue was related to that, is that basically with all the other players, because their game plans were much more emotive than mine was, the producers I think had an idea of who they were going to block, because they'd always ask us questions and stuff just so they have their narrative, like there are thoughts on players and everything. So I think with the others they had a better idea of who they would block if they became an influencer. Whereas with me, I was very unpredictable, because even I didn't know who I was going to block, because I remember the floor producer actually asked me like, who would you block if you were influencer? And I said it depends on the maths, because for me I would have literally done it on a formula. And then they were like, what does the maths say? And then I said, oh, I haven't done the maths yet, because it would be arrogant for me to do the calculations before I even become influencer. So I never did. I wouldn't know. I honestly don't know who I would have blocked, because I said I'll never do the calculations until I become it, because I just find it arrogant to do it before you become influencer. So then because of that, it made, I think they found it like me too much of like a wild card, because I'm too unpredictable. Because what would have happened if I had become influencer and then my formula said get rid of Manrika? It would have ruined the whole show. So I think that was the other reason.
That would have been exciting though, I think. Can you tell me what was the formula? How would you have figured it out?
So it would have been the same. So the formula for my rating, it was linked to my formula for my rating. So the formula for my ratings was, basically I gave everyone like this thing called a circle popularity index. So it was basically just a weighted average of their ratings so far on the show. Just because say if you come first out of a rating with 9 people, that's more impressive than coming first out of a rating than 7 people. So it was like weighted for that. So it was an average of that. And then I would do my one as well. And then I would do like my one minus their one to see like the difference. Because obviously in my mind, I thought I'm competing with the people that are closest in popularity to me. So I was more comfortable putting the people way ahead of me or way behind me at the top, and the people closer to me at the bottom. So then I ranked those. So I give them like a points from like, say if there were 7 people, 7 to 1, I'd give them like ranking points. And then I'd also have a separate whiteboard where I had how many chats I had with people. And I'd like apportion chats. So say if I had a group chat with 2 other people, I'd count that as 0.5 chats for each person, because that's like they're getting half my attention. So I'd total all those chats and then rank those from like 7 to 1, for example, and then I'd do the combined ranking, and then that would form my rating. So I assume my blocking formula would have been basically the same, but just out of the block players. Like obviously I wouldn't include the players that were immune, so it would have been like ranking them from 5 to 1, for example, but it would have been the same method.
And do you think you probably would have gone for like the players closest to you, an average popularity index to block, or would you have gone for the high players?
No, the players I would have blocked would have probably been the players. Oh, actually, that's a good point. Yeah, actually, so it would have been. I think it would have been the mix. It would have been the players. I would have tried to go for the highest ranked player that I'd had the least amount of chats with. Yeah, that's what I would have done.
I love it. I think that's awesome.
And I think for me that's why it was when I think the ratings were when I actually felt I had the most control over my decisions, just because it was impossible for anyone to influence me because I had a system that I'd worked on because I had to make it for. I made this whole formula and everything for the show, like for my interview, to kind of make it seem like I had no idea if it would work or anything.
Yeah.
But I did it to make myself seem like I knew what I was doing almost. So like, because given that I'd created a whole kind of formula or method for my ratings, it was impossible for anyone to kind of budge me and rate differently.
Right.
So I think I had the most control over my decisions when it came to ratings.
Well, so I saw. So after you have the conversation with Manrika, where you admit to the anonymous comment about her and Felix, you did rank her third, I believe. Were you not aware that she had taken so much offense and or saw it as a threat to her, or were you just kind of like, I've got to stick to the formula anyway?
Sorry, my throat dries up way too quickly when I'm talking.
No worries.
Okay, so basically, I don't know, it seems like I'm the only person that's noticed this, but basically, if you notice when you're watching the show, when so basically after that whole conversation, which went completely not how I would have wanted it to go, but that's a different story.
Let's tell that story first, and then we can talk about the rating after.
Well, the thing is, okay, so I think all of those, I think the second week, just everything, I just felt like I just didn't feel like I had any control over anything. So I just felt like everything was kind of out of my hands because if this was like a game that wasn't on TV, for example, and we're just playing a game by ourselves, the painting of Saeed wouldn't have happened, the question wouldn't have happened, and the apology therefore wouldn't have happened. But obviously, because of the nature of TV, all those things ended up happening. Because I think I got into a place where I felt as if you didn't cooperate, they would see that as like then you're not willing to cooperate, and then they won't give you future opportunities.
Right.
That's how I felt, and I think that's quite a rational way to think, or like a rational thing to believe. I don't think that's like nonsensical for me to have thought that, especially given with the question, for example, I had already submitted 5 questions for the game, and none of them got accepted, and then I got the response back saying, "Why don't you write a question pretending to be somebody else?" So so from that perspective, if my first 5 questions haven't got accepted, but they liked question 6, like I don't think that's that outrageous for me to have like thought, fine, because they've not accepted my first 5, let me go with my 6th choice.
Right.
Like, and I never said that I could win this show with my F game. Like I thought I'd try my best to win the show with my A game. I didn't say I was going to come on with my F game and win this. So like I felt almost as if I was having to compromise what would be good strategically in order to satisfy the entertainment needs of the show. And actually what happened with that whole question thing was they actually got Felix to confront me straight after the game, and they didn't show it because I really didn't want to do this question. So like they got Felix to confront me straight after the game, and then I denied it at that point. I put out a response like, well, he didn't confront me straight away. He didn't enter the conversation saying like, hi, hello. He entered the conversation going, I don't know how much more of this I can take, people saying all this stuff about me. And then I responded saying something like, oh, I'm glad you thought that you could come and confide in me about this. And then we just had a normal conversation after. But I was just really upset with the whole thing because obviously I hadn't wanted to do the conversation, and then I felt like they'd set me up. That like I was almost in tears, and like they had to take me out for fresh air because I was like that upset and angry. So I was quite disappointed with the edit, how it looked like I was like some sort of like Lord Farquaad. Who was like totally loving it. So because I just thought that was a bit inaccurate from what actually happened. And then the whole apology situation. So after that, because I felt guilty just because I felt like I'd lost myself almost, because the way I saw anonymous games is like the reason why I didn't want to do a question like that was just because I don't see there being any need to be like not mean, but like mean for the sake of being mean. Like that's how doing that question felt to me. It felt like there was nothing for me to gain from doing that. So I just felt it was just pointless. And I'm someone that, judging from how you've seen me describing my ratings, I'm someone that likes to have a purpose for doing what I do. Was this just felt like very flippant and just for the sake of it. So I was just upset, and then I was struggling to sleep with because of guilt and stuff. I even had a nightmare like one night that like Manrika messaged me on Facebook saying that she didn't want to be friends with me, and then one time I had, and at this point I still thought Felix was real. So like I remember Felix, I had a nightmare where Felix told me that like he wouldn't invite me out with his friends and all this stuff. So but like even so, I was willing to just push it under a rug because I was like, I've got past, and especially once Gemma's blocking happened, I was like, we're done. Finally, I've just got closure on this story and I could just move on. Then obviously the circle, and I actually asked to have a circle siblings chat just because that was day 13 when I had it, and then the last chat I'd had with them was day 8, so it had been a while since I'd been allowed to speak to them, and I did not know that they were having chats without me. So obviously I'm not in their room. So because I saw someone making a meme about how like it was like a meme of how they dropped me out of the circle, but like that wasn't in their control or my control. So yeah, but so then in this conversation, I think I started off going like saying like, oh, I'm so proud of you both and stuff, and then they come back saying like, I've been quiet and like what's going on, like about honesty. I think that shit was shown in the episode. Like they talked about like, they might have said something about, do you want to be honest with us or something like that? I don't know. Did they show that?
I mean, it was definitely like they were trying to like give you advice about like, hey, you should start opening up, because like I think you were starting to be toward the bottom of the ratings at that point.
Yeah. So I think so. It's weird because what I recall from the actual chat was Andy said something like, I've spoken to like Saeed and Dorothy and they've said you've been quiet and stuff, like what's going on and stuff. And so then like the real, if the real me wanted to say I've only been offered one private chat in the last 2 days, so like that's why. But like obviously I couldn't say that because I'm at the stop there, the show is typing my message. So then I had to make up this excuse about how I had low confidence and I was struggling to initiate conversation and stuff. And I mean, I do have low confidence, but like my urge to win was so strong that it would overcome any nerves that I felt almost, as you saw from like day one, really. Because I was so nervous that when I entered, I literally drank water out of like a vase by accident because I didn't even realize it was, I was so nervous that I drank water out of a vase. But like my will to try and do well overcame the nerves. And that didn't change throughout the process. The only thing that changed was how many chats I was getting given. So then I made up this excuse, and that's already set me off with tears and stuff, because I was like, then I realized the situation I'm in, because I'm like, I'm having to lie to protect the people that are taking away my chat. so that was really difficult for me. And then they came back, and then I felt a lot of encouragement to try and apologize, because they were like, so I think Manrika must have said something like, honesty is the best policy or something, and I didn't even think she was talking about the question. I think she just meant like opening up, and they were like, from my voice from the producer was like, do you think they're talking about that question? And I was like, oh, I don't think they are. And they were like, but now would be a good time to apologize, like it's been bothering you for a long time, hasn't it? And all this stuff, they were really pushing it on me, and I just felt such a big weight, and I really didn't want to apologize. So I thought to myself, how can I satisfy the producers, because obviously I'm thinking I have to cooperate with them because otherwise I'll be blacklisted. So that's how I felt anyway. I don't know if that's a reality, but that's how I felt. And so I thought, how do I cooperate with them? So I thought, let me put something vague, like as a way of stalling, and also shows that I've cooperated with them. So that's why I put that brief message instead of going out, because I think they would have just preferred me to have gone out straight and just said like it was me kind of thing. But I made the conversation two messages longer than it needed to be for them, because I was trying to stall and hope that they'd give up on trying to pressure me. And so I said something like, oh, I found the anonymous game challenging. I've tried to be cool and edgy and stuff. And I was like, I left it vague because then I was like, if Manrika wants to come at me about it, then she can. And then for me, I don't even think I would have apologized even had she come at me about it. The reason why I did apologize was because they didn't show it in the chat. Like on the chat, it literally looks like her going, "Was it you?" And then I go, "Yeah, it was me." But what really happened was she said something like, there was this question, the circle relationship, I spoke to Felix and he said it wasn't him. Gemma came and visited me last night and she said it wasn't, he said it wasn't him either. Was it you? So from that process of elimination, obviously Dorothy and Tally were answering the questions, so it couldn't have been them. And then if Manrika's saying it wasn't Manrika or Felix, and then it wasn't Gemma, so that only leaves Saeed, me and Andy. And then obviously Saeed, we all knew which one his question was. And then if Andy wasn't in the chat, I might have gone like, even though I wouldn't have enjoyed doing that, I would have probably said it was Andy. Like I wouldn't have said it, but I would be like, oh, have you asked Andy or something like that. The problem was I was boxed into a corner because everyone had got what they wanted, because they boxed me into this corner where I had no other real option, because I couldn't say it was Andy because Andy was my best ally on the show. Like he was the only person that really always had my back. So like I couldn't say it was him, so I had to say it was me. And the thing is, I saw people in the comments on Twitter and saying stuff like, why didn't you like just say Felix was lying? But that wouldn't have worked, because look what happened to Tally. Like you can't step up to Felix, because Manrika would have got rid of me regardless. So at that point I was boxed into a corner where I had to apologize. And actually after that conversation I knew I was going out, so I actually had my bare outfit laid out on my bed before the blocking decision came. I just knew everything was already set in place. The reason why I've waffled a bit, but the reason why I rated her third was basically I knew, well, in my mind I thought Andy had lost trust with me, because you know how Andy was so high on like ethics and like, all that stuff. I thought that ruined his perception of me as well. So I thought Andy was going to block me. I thought I knew Manrika would. I thought, and obviously Dorothy I'd only had one chat with, and that was on day 6, and this was day 14. So like I knew she would block me as well. I could tell Femi didn't like me, and I never got given the chance to have a chat with him, so I knew he would block me. So literally I felt like the only people that wouldn't have blocked me were Pippa, Felix, and then possibly Saeed, because I didn't realize Saeed had known that I did the painting of him. So I actually thought Saeed might have lied to me. So basically what I did was, if you notice, when 2 new people are facing ratings for the first time, they don't put that message going, the top 2 will be influencers, on the board. And the reason is that if the 2 new people finish bottom, they'll double block them and recreate them into a new character. So I almost felt like I wasn't playing against you're not really competing against your other players, you're competing against production. So I thought like, in order for me to the only way I can kind of stall my elimination and like push it back a couple more days is like trying to get Femi and Pippa to finish the bottom 2.
Right.
The producers get scared that I'm not going to go, and then double block them and turn them into a new character. So basically what I did was, for that rating, I literally just averaged out everyone's popularity indexes and just went order from first to last, because I didn't want to say if I put Manrika 5th, for example, then it's putting like people that in my mind I thought I could have overtaken, like Dorothy, like giving her extra points.
Right. Yeah.
So in my mind I knew I'm never going to chase down Manrika anyway, so like I can put her 3rd. And then also if you think about it, in my mind I thought whoever was going to be influenced was going to block me, so I felt like my only chance of surviving was getting Pippa and Femi below me.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, but obviously for the narrative, it's made me look like the kind of like innocent, naive, thinking Manrika's going to trust me.
Yeah,
and then she puts me 7th, but that's not actually what was going through my mind.
Yeah. Well, that's very interesting. So let's assume that you had made it to the end. Let's just say that you made it to the final 5. You're there instead of Tom. Do you know what you think? I mean, obviously, I imagine you would have used the formula, but so that means you probably haven't calculated it. So the answer is probably no. You don't know what you would have done.
Well, so I actually did I actually did a calculation. So they're not.
There you go.
So they're not like, obviously, as you were saying, like they're not going to be super accurate because I wasn't there. I had to use it against like. Oh, actually, no, that's not true. For the final, no, the ratings between me going out and the final would have been slightly inaccurate because I don't know how many chats I would have been given with them. Since I had to just hypothesize that it'd be the same rate as I was given during my time on the show and stuff. But the final ratings would have been the same had I been there. And I actually I put a tweet about them. It would have been Saeed first, Andy second, Manrika third, and Felix fourth. I was always going to put OGs above new people. And my reasoning for that was just because, in my mind, if I made the final, I wouldn't want to be beaten by someone that had been there less days than me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, if someone's going to beat me, I want them to be someone that started from the start. So, and then the reason why Saeed, so the reason for that order is that based on their like popularity index, Saeed had the lowest.
Mm-hmm.
So out of those three, so I would put, and lower than Felix as well. So like, but out of those three, he had the lowest. So I put him first, and Manrika had the highest. So that's why she would have gone in third, and then Andy was second. So that was the reason for that order.
There you go.
I actually think I had the most liked tweet of the series, actually, because I made a joke about it, and I said something like it was because someone had already made the meme of like me drinking orange juice out of a wine glass, but I used this photo and I put the caption. I put the caption of me knowing that I would have rated my fellow OGs as my top three, but none of them won because I wasn't there. And it got like over 4,000 likes.
There you go. There you go. Who do you think would it have been Andy that you would have hoped, if it wasn't you, that would you have hoped that he would have won?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Because for my meet anyway, the way I decided who I was going to meet was I was going to meet the person that I wanted to win,
Mm-hmm.
and then give them my game plan. Because I actually gave Andy like basically the blueprint to win. He just chose not to use it. I mean, and also I don't know how much control he had to use it. But when I went to visit him, I told him that I thought Felix was a girl, and I also told him that he should rate Felix and Manrika low, and if he ever gets the chance to block any one of them anonymously, he needs to block one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So he did have that chance, but obviously he blocked Alice, because I told him that it's unlikely he would have ever beaten them two together. So he had to someone had to break them up.
Do you think that if he had blocked Manrika, because I've heard him say that he really did consider it, because I thought about that. Obviously, blocking Manrika could work for him, but I think maybe his worry and my worry would have been in his place is they're gonna know it's him that did it, because it's either Saeed or Felix at that point, either Saeed, Felix, or him, and I think both Saeed and Felix probably would be able to suss out that it was neither of them. So they'd probably know it was Andy, and then they might turn on him in the end.
It's interesting because I don't think they think as analytically as
It's fair.
you do. I think a lot of the players, they didn't think that, and I think I feel like I had this very over analytical type of mindset, but I don't think Natalia and Hashu might have actually, but I just don't think that would have come to their mind. And even so, I think they wouldn't have been able to act upon it when they can't. Even if they might have thought it, yeah, but they wouldn't have. I don't think they would have acted upon it when they couldn't prove it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think that would have had an impact. And I also think Hashu really didn't like Felix. So I think Hashu's ratings would have actually put Felix fourth, and he would have moved like Alice into like second or third, with like Tom and Alice to be in second or third, which would have further helped Andy, I think.
Yeah, potentially, yeah. Do you have any insight into Joey and Pippa's final ratings, as they ultimately decided the winner here?
Oh yeah. So the Circle published it. They published the final ones. So
right, but in the sense of like, why did they put Felix
they
number
spoke
one?
about
Yeah.
it. So basically, they thought Felix was real. So they rated him first.
Really? That's it? That's the reason?
Well, yeah, and also because the difference. So I think Manrika was second, I think, and Felix was first. But the reason was like they had nothing against Felix, because whereas like Manrika had her whole like triple threat thing, and she showed that she didn't care about them once they were gone, because obviously they saw her message after.
Mm-hmm.
The difference was with Felix, like Pippa totally understood why Felix would block her.
Right.
Because he didn't owe anything to her. Like, because apparently even with the blocking when I went, Natalia still didn't actually care that much about me doing the question.
Yeah.
She only kind of agreed to it because obviously it would be bad from her game plan to not be annoyed at it.
Right.
But even when she found out about it, she still wanted Pippa out. So like she just never connected with Pippa, probably because they never had like a one-to-one chat. And so Pippa understood this, because she was like, it's fair, that's very fair that Felix would get rid of me because we just haven't had the chance to speak. And then because they thought he was real as well, and then like he'd been the less kind of Felix was probably the least shady player in the game, to be honest. I mean, apart from the fact Natalia was a catfish.
Right.
Like, apart from that, in terms of actually in the game itself, she was probably one of the least shady people, because think about when Gemma was the assassin. Felix was the one that called Gemma out on being an assassin and doing all that like underhanded behavior and stuff. No, everyone else, we were all like very supportive of Gemma. Even I should have been the person that called her out, if anything, because Gemma got rid of my best friend.
Right.
But Felix was the one that called Gemma out.
Well, good on Natalia then, for tricking Tom.
Yeah.
But so okay, the show's over. How do you feel about the whole thing? Are you friends with everyone? Is there anyone that you like stay in contact with?
Yeah, so we all have a WhatsApp group, so we are all good friends now, and I think it's something that we just see it more as, well, I do anyway, and I think a lot of people just see it more as like an experience rather than a game.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're all like on at least good terms. Obviously, there's like smaller groups where people are closer with each other than others, but like no one's feuding at the moment.
Yeah.
Luckily.
Is there anyone that you're like particularly close to, or is it just kind of like a group thing?
I would say that I probably am closest to like Billy, obviously, and then Andy, Natalia, James I actually speak to quite a bit, and Shabazz, which is interesting because Shabazz and I, when he was the only person that wasn't there on the show at the same time as me, because he took my room. So like, yeah, but I speak a lot with him. Yeah, and Tally actually. So yeah, those are the people I probably speak to most.
So obviously there was a lot of hate that was directed, and I saw you guys made a video that I actually thought was very nice, about the amount of sort of like online directed hate that you guys were receiving. Is that something that I mean, I imagine that certainly everyone has, but has it really affected you, or like how do you feel about it in general?
Yeah, so I guess the message the hashtag we've used is hashtag think before you post. So I think for me in particular, I would say like generally on the whole, I would say the reception I've been quite fortunate for my reception. So like I think the only general kind of feedback I've got from even people that I'm close to, they'd say like that I had a quiet edit, but like what I was shown was quite favorable. So I didn't have that much negativity, only a couple of messages really that were mean. That actually both those messages I like made the video. And I think it's pretty obvious you can easily tell one of them that was like definitely sent to me. If you I don't know if you like.
Oh, well, they flashed by, so like I didn't.
Yeah. So I like paused through each one just to see if like if those were probably written about me. Because Shabazz did the whole edit, so Shabazz would have gone through searching for most of the messages, but he asked us to submit any that we'd received. So yeah, so there were just a couple of messages. Yeah, the way I see it is that like there's just really no need to message someone about your dislike for them, and especially just wishing harm no one wished harm on me really. So they just said like people just said they hated me, but they didn't say that they didn't actually wish harm on me. But I know other people had like people wishing harm on them or death upon them and stuff. And I think there's a big difference between having a negative opinion on someone, which I think is totally fine. Like as long as I'm not expecting anyone to. You can't expect everyone to like you. So I'm more than happy for someone to dislike me on their own page, like without tagging me kind of thing. But there's a difference, but there's no need for you to bring your negative view of someone onto their page, their comments or their messages. Because actually on the time of the final there was someone that kept commenting negative stuff, so I muted their account and then they just messaged me instead. So it was like I couldn't even escape from them. So yeah, I've noticed that I think that our series has probably been the most that have revealed the most about like backstage and stuff, just because we felt the need to, given that
Yeah.
a big reason why we've received a lot of the stuff is just because the viewers are not understanding the fact that this is a TV show. I think they're treating this as like real life, and
Yeah.
they're not understanding how heavily produced everything is. So yeah, it's really, and I think people are seeing this as like real life when it really just is ultimately a TV show about a game kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like even if it was completely real, and you know, like you know, I talk about Big Brother a lot, and Big Brother has live feeds. Like we're watching, you know, most of what's happening, like live, like it's all there. And so like the, you know, the fans for Big Brother would say like, oh no, we see it happen in real time. But like even if it is real, it's still not worth, you know, harassing people, you know, causing them to have you know, like actual physical reactions to having to go on the internet and see this stuff, like the kinds of the kinds of things that people have to deal with and put up with just because they were on a show is absurd. And on top of all of that, like, listen to everything that was said in this podcast. It's not Big Brother. It's not live feeds. You know, maybe. I think the hashtag is right. Maybe think a little bit before for spewing out hatred. I think that's not a bad message.
And I just don't, and I think like obviously when we were there, we're all really believing like that we're playing a game, so we're all doing everything in the context that we think it's a game, at least, because obviously at that time we think everything is in a game's context. So people are only doing what they're doing because they believe it's a game. And for me, like I don't think there was any actions that anyone did that I thought were immoral, kind of like, or not necessarily, well, maybe immoral, but like I think there wasn't anything that anyone did that I don't think I would have done myself had I been in their position. I think the only difference I would say that with some contestants is that the difference with me and them might have been that when they did those decisions, they didn't seem to be upset about them or feel guilt. I think the one difference is I was more than willing to do whatever it took to win, kind of thing, but I wouldn't have enjoyed doing it. I would have done it because I knew I needed to do that to help me win. Whereas I think some contestants may have got like a joy from being mean, kind of thing.
Which is fine. I mean, and it's fine to criticize that too. I'm not saying you can't be like,
so
that.
There's a big difference between. So that would be my only kind of grievance with anything I saw from contestants. But that's still, even if someone shared that opinion, why don't you just put that on your own page? There's no reason for you to go in someone's messages and say that to them.
It's I think the thing is that like you watch a show, you don't necessarily, like, you're not this person's friend. Like if you are a friend of somebody that you watch on TV and you see them doing something, you're like, what is that? And you like message them like, what were you doing? Like, okay, that's a conversation that you can have from a trusted friend who they know they have their best interests in. You're not their friend. You just watch them on TV. They have no idea who you are. You're one of millions of people. And you may think that, oh, I'm just one person asking a question, or I'm just one person giving my opinion on what they should be doing or how they should be living their life. But it's not just one person. It's a lot of people, and that's very overwhelming. But yeah, is everyone doing all right? Everyone's like okay with everything.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the site support has been pretty good, to be fair. Like, and I think because I think Tim from Series 2, for their series, apparently it wasn't, supposedly, I wasn't there, so like, but supposedly they criticized it. But I think we've been given plenty of site support. So that's I think that side has been fine, really. Yeah, I think for me, anything in terms of what I'd like to see with Series 4 is probably, if I think Series 4 is probably going to happen. I mean, they've opened for a potential, but the ratings have been better than Series 2 overall, so I assume Series 4 will happen. I'd say for Series 4, I'd probably just want more of a game aspect kind of thing. Just because I think we can even just, you don't even have to have been in my position to see that, because I think from your position or any viewer, it's like the twists are always influenced by the ratings rather than Sorry, have I got the right? So the ratings influence the twists, whereas I want the show to evolve where the twists influence the ratings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I can tell you, and this is a conversation that we've had on these podcasts. Obviously, I'm in the U.S. We're watching this show. At least started in the U.K. There's certainly a U.S. version now. But again, as somebody who talks about Big Brother a lot, our version of Big Brother, Survivor, it's been on TV for over 20 years now. And in my opinion, the reason why it continues to work is because it is primarily a game that is televised, and certainly there are aspects of it that we hate, that we wish they wouldn't do twists and so on and so forth, that we get frustrated with. But I think that when it comes to these kinds of shows, like, yeah, you can create some great seasons here and there, when you have a show that is also a game, with the framework of a game, I should say. But eventually you kind of run out. You can only tell so many stories, when you're telling stories, as opposed to letting them play out, right? And so I think the best thing for the longevity of the circle, personally, would be if they opened it up to be more strategic and more of a game, because that leads to more organic storylines that can sort of like be a little more unpredictable and more fun. But that's that's an American perspective.
But I think that's the bit of the irony of the cast, because the way they cast it was they really cast us as people that had their game plan set and people that really wanted to play the game. So it was quite ironic that the cast were the people that were most likely to give everything that you would have wanted, kind of.
Yeah.
But the show was probably carried out in the least like that way.
Yeah.
Even though the cast themselves wanted it to be like that. So that's quite like a juxtaposition. Is that the correct word?
Yeah.
So like that was strange in that sense. But yeah, I definitely think there could be more of a game aspect. And I think the other thing that I'm a bit worried about for series 4 is that they definitely did so many twists this year, that they have I do fear that they might have boxed themselves into a corner that they're gonna like run out of twists. And I fear did you follow like UK Big Brother much?
No, I never was a huge fan of it, because again, it wasn't enough of a real game for me.
So basically towards the end of one of the later series of Big Brother in the UK, I remember like they ended up just doing like twists for the sake of twists.
Right.
So they did like one twist where like literally in like week 2 or 3, they had like the housemates did like nominations, and like half the house were up for eviction. But what the twist was it was actually the people that weren't nominated that were up for eviction. And like so it was like, and so the 6 that weren't nominated were actually up for eviction, and 4 of them got evicted, and they replaced them with 4 new people. And like what ended up happening was they literally got rid of people that probably could have won the show or made the final in like week 2 or 3, just for the sake of a twist.
Yeah.
And I'm scared that for series 4 they might do something like role reversal, where like whoever comes lowest in the ratings becomes influencer or something. And I just don't like stuff like that, because if you're gonna, in the concept of it being a meritocratic game, bad performance shouldn't be rewarded.
Yeah.
So like, because I even felt that way about, even in our series, I question whether Tom and Alice should have been given immunity.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot.
Late, because if you think about it, Pippa and Fermi, obviously this is very much criticizing the game, not the players.
Right.
Because the cast are fantastic, but if you think about it, they got blocked. So like, why should being unpopular enough to get blocked be rewarded with immunity?
Yeah. And they guaranteed that one of the new players introduced in the last section of the game would make the final 5, which isn't even good storytelling from my perspective.
I think the whole reason why Shabazz was brought in was to facilitate Joey and Pippa to make the final.
It kind of seemed that way,
because it wouldn't have made sense for Shabazz to have made the final, just because the viewers wouldn't have related to someone that's been there 4 days. So whereas Pippa and Femi had been there like 11 days at that point, so like that was the reason why. And I think it was kind of pieced together to get like one person from each, at least one person from each stage. So you've got your Femi and Pippa from, or Joey from like day 11 stage. You've got Natalia from day 5 and the originals from the start to create like, so because that creates a narrative to the viewer that you can enter at any time and make the final kind of thing. Because when I spoke about demographic similarities, so like if you know, so the first 2 weeks on both series 2 and I haven't watched series 1 to compare, but I think series 2 and series 3 is like when the show develops its like business model to know the kind of direction they want to put it in. So for series 1 and series 2, series 2 and series 3, for the first 2 weeks, only OG players go home, with the exception of Richard Madeley, who was in series 2, who was contracted to get blocked, so that doesn't count. So only original players go home for the first 2 weeks, and then after that point, all original players will make the final. Like they'll be in the final like till the end. And then what I've noticed is like, if you are a person of color playing a white character, you will not do well, because it's not a good narrative. If you, in the event you did do well, it will just create a lot of controversy online, just as wider society about whether about racism or white privilege and stuff. And the channel does not want to involve themselves in a race issue. So like that is just not a good. So that would, so if I was saying to people, the stats are clearly showing that this character is not working, because we've seen it a few times now with Alice. We saw it with Yolanda and Chris, and we saw it with series 2 Basayo, who actually went to my uni and she played Josh. So we've seen it count a few times now, and it's never worked. I would actually say it would probably work better the other way. So I would say if anyone is, but you can't, they probably won't let you do it because it will be too controversial.
Yeah, that would
just
also
to do
be
it out of the blue.
yeah.
No, but they would let it if like they would have let Chris play as Yolanda, for example, because he would have had a genuine reason, because he could have said he wants to play as his beautiful wife, for example, and they can't object to that. So like that, I would say if you have if you're married in like an interracial marriage or something, then I would say definitely do that, because you're giving yourself the best possible chance, in my opinion. Well, the stats are I'm just going by the stats of the results, and the stats are showing that there's probably scope for that sort of character to do well.
Well, Vithun, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. Was there anything else that like you're dying to get off your chest?
Well, I mean, there's just one point about this. One of the other similarities I've seen is, if you notice, all people that enter midway kind of thing, they always survive at least one elimination.
Yep.
So that's another trait. So it's like, because they have to show that if you enter midway, that you can survive, and it's not like a disadvantage to be put in midway. Because even when in series 2, when Beth and Jack did finish bottom, they recreated them as Joyce and then helped them survive that elimination, so that they could still survive one elimination.
I mean, I have an idea for them. You could just throw everyone in at once. Just an idea.
I think the only issue with that would be people, because people are even saying, like, people watching, I didn't feel it so much myself, but some of the people watching our series from our cast, they felt that with 9 people this series compared to 8, it felt like people didn't even have a chance for like a proper introduction, and it was so quick between people. So if you had everyone at once, at all 14 characters or whatever, there wouldn't have been any kind of like introductions for people. It'd be hard to form connections from.
I do feel that's fair. I feel like maybe the thing for me is that like I'd be down for like start with 8, add 2 after the first blocking, add another 2 after the next blocking.
I think it should have stopped there.
Exactly.
I think it should have stopped at Joey and Pippa.
Yes, exactly. Like the adding people in the late stage of the game is way too late for me. Because like even if it does work out, you don't like, you know, I'm sure Patty's a nice guy, but like I don't think a lot of people were excited about that outcome.
I know, but Paddy did enter at the stage that Joey and Pippa entered, to be fair.
Right, but I think honestly, I think even the Joey and Pippa stage is a bit late to introduce new characters. I think that like you've got to get them in. Like, well, I mean, when did Joey and Pippa enter? Was it like
it was day 11?
Day 11.
21.
Yeah, I feel like even that is just like you've already been attached to the other players. Like, I guess there's a chance. I guess there's a chance that they could
Yeah,
really
to be
warm
fair,
up to
I
them.
think
But
when those contestants are entering in, it's more just to spice things up,
yeah,
more than
that's more.
anything.
That is what it feels like.
And to be fair, I can understand that, because that is the purpose of, that's where the kind of show comes in. So there has to be that sort of, and Paddy did prove that he could win from that position. What I would say is, it's basically, I would say it's like near on impossible to win from Shabaz's position or Jan's position, because apparently Jan reported that she never even got the chance to have a chat with Paddy or Georgina.
Yeah.
So she didn't even have a chat with the eventual winner and runner-up of the show. So I don't know how on earth she was meant to win from that position.
Yeah. Maybe they can just add. Maybe when they add new players, they have their own objectives. Maybe that's what it is. When you add someone late in the game, it's not to get to the end and win. It's to like I don't know, give them unique objectives to do. And then like when they added the Richard Madeley to get himself blocked or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, to be fair, I wouldn't want to overcomplicate it, because I think from viewers' perspectives, I think people that watched all three series is like, a lot of them seem to love series 1, because I think they found it like the most organic.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, for series 4, I would probably say like have a more like back to basics type format.
I mean that's the thing. Like, and I think I would imagine that they were reacting to season 1 when they were trying to help integrate the new players, because in season 1 there was pretty obviously like an OG alliance that formed, and they were, I think, kind of trying to hide it in the edit.
Yeah.
But it was very clear that any new player would have no chance. But I think that's fine. I think that most of the audience probably doesn't want the new players to have much of a chance.
Yeah. I know, to be fair, I don't think in our series, I think the OG alliance really only formed after I went, to be fair.
Yeah.
Like, so I think until then, and maybe when Pippa and Femi joined, it sort of was starting to be there, but it wasn't really like fully. So I mean, like, people,
well,
like
obviously
me,
Triple Threat was about to happen.
yeah, but like people, I think the only people that probably didn't find like loyalty with OGs was probably myself and Manrika, because I guess us two are probably the most like willing to be strategic. But like I don't think the rest. I think the rest of them would have like had more or less like some OG loyalty as well. Yeah, but I mean, it's an interesting dynamic.
It is. All right. Well, Vithun, thank you so much for joining us. Definitely, you have provided a lot of insight into the season, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us with this interview. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you guys, the audience, have found it just as enlightening as I have. And of course, there's plenty of Circle coverage. U.S. Circle on Netflix coming your way, all across the YouTube page and things and all that. So check it all out. Vithun, where can people find you if they want to check you out on the internet?
So my Instagram is at Vithun Ilankavan. So it's just, I mean, I assume I'm like the world's most famous Vithun now. So if you type in Vithun onto Instagram, I probably will come up as like one of the first ones.
There you go. Here, let me try
and then
it. Go ahead.
For Twitter, you just need to take off the HUN of my first name. So it'll just be Vit Ilankavan, and then that will be my Twitter.
Yeah. Top results on Instagram, Vithun.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's what I brand myself as now, world's most famous Vithun.
Boom. Yeah. I am not the world's most famous Taran, unfortunately. You'd think I'd get close, but I'm probably like 5th.
But even before the circle, if you just typed in my first name, you would get like the odd picture of me on like the first page of Google Images. Yeah. So like, do you not even get that?
No, I'll get that. Like, you Google my first name, I think I'll pop up there. That's well, see, here's the problem. I'm getting the Black Cauldron Taran, then Taran Killam. I think I have to go to the second page. Yeah, there's the Taran show. Yeah. Because
actually today when I typed in your like name and surname, like I did get you, but then I also got like some basketball player.
Yep, there's a basketball player from Australia. Yep, he's the other Taran Armstrong. We had a chat about it once.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Vithun, and I will see all of you guys next time.